You know, Angelo, we know that you were one of the participants in the High Desert Heart Institute study that had 35 initial participants. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that study. In fact, maybe let's even go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your health condition that led you to seek out the help of Dr. Siva and the High Desert Heart Institute.
Well, ever since I come up here, I've had heart problems, primarily starting out with atrial fibrillation, and then ultimately I required a pacemaker to be put in. What happened is in December, actually December 20th to be specific, of 2008, I had a renal failure, congestive heart failure, and pacemaker failure concurrently. And it necessitated my being sent to the hospital. Paramedics came, and I went into the hospital, and they ultimately decided they were going to have to do surgery. And it was supposed to be very dangerous because I'd been also, because of my atrial fibrillation, I'd been taking blood thinner. So taking and doing surgery at that time was going to be very dangerous. They told my wife to make that decision for me because I wasn't able to do it at the time. I was really out. And she did. She thought, after listening to everything, the best thing for me to do is go ahead and try the surgery, which they did. And that went successful. The surgery was fine. After I got out of the hospital, for the next 5 to 6 weeks, I was in the hospital about 2 to 3 days minimum every week as a result of congestive heart failure. It basically was the real primary reason, is that nothing was happening. I had been taking all the medications possible. I was medically managed to the maximum extent, and finally I gave up. Quite honestly, I'd had enough. I got weak. I was on oxygen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I couldn't walk 15 feet without stopping. I couldn't even open up a bottle of water. My wife used to have to open the bottles of water for me. I was very concerned also with medical costs, and I was concerned that I didn't know what these bills were going to be because I hadn't received them yet, but I didn't want to empty the well out, so to speak, and I didn't want any good money spent after bad, if you will. So I decided to take myself out of the hospital. I asked them to remove all the IVs, and they told me that if I went home I would die. And I said, just give me the papers I need and I'll go home, because if I'm going to die, that's where I want to be anyway. Coincidentally, that was on a Sunday, and I had a pre-scheduled appointment with the congestive heart failure clinic on Monday. Well, my wife convinced me. Well, on Monday, I mentioned that I was going to go to the congestive heart failure clinic. I went there, and Dan Austin, who is the clinical director there, and Dr. Siva recommended that I go on a study of a product called proarginine, which is a dietary supplement. Well, I was just a little bit set back that they'd been doing everything they could. I felt, you know, what are you going to do with a dietary supplement? And in all truthfulness, I didn't really think it was going to work, but they also told me they were going to do a tremendous amount of testing. Well, the testing really hit me because they said it was going to be free, and so I could see that the medical bills were not going to be rising, and so consequently I went ahead and said, let's do it, because I was more interested in seeing what was going to be happening to me, whether I had a week to live or 7 days or 2 days. I was expecting things to go down, and I wanted to have access to all of that information. So I did what they said, and I went on to proarginine, and there were 35 people total, and in a few short weeks I began to actually feel better. I wasn't sure at that time whether I was feeling better or I was thinking I was feeling better. But actually I was feeling better. By the end of 3 months, I felt really pretty good. By the end of the 3rd month, I was doing things that I hadn't been able to do for years. My wife is the one who told me that she believed that I had more energy than I ever had in my life. And I really thought that maybe she should go on pro-arginine too, because I think she forgot our honeymoon, because I knew I had more energy then. And here I am ready to go on a second honeymoon because of the pro-arginine. And
tell us a little bit more about some of the other people you associated with in the study. How serious were these people who were involved in the study? And were they handpicked because of certain situations, or were they all pretty much in a similar situation as you were?
Well, they were handpicked, but they were handpicked on the basis of they picked the worst people. There were 33 that I know of out of the 35 that were what I'm going to refer to as, my term is nearly deads, okay, including me. And I got to meet the greater majority of them while we were there. And I could see that they were getting well in talking with them, because I actually spent about 4 to 5 hours at the clinic once or twice a week getting all these tests done. And we've had people who were at the clinic who had legs that they were told by their own doctor to have it amputated. They did not have it amputated because they didn't want to, but after taking this study, not for the leg, but for the congestive heart failure, that leg has ended up looking great. It's good and doesn't require amputation. That's on one person. Another person was in there taking magnesium. They were there 3 times a week with getting IVs for magnesium because they couldn't get their magnesium level to the minimum required. They also had heart problems, but they were in there for this reason. The first thing they happened to notice was that the magnesium count was increasing. By the end of the 3 months, they were not using hardly any of the magnesium. The magnesium level had gotten back into the normal range, and the person was taking magnesium tablets as well as IV medication direct. And there's no magnesium in the product. That's the interesting thing.
So it obviously seems to be helping the absorption of the magnesium that people were getting otherwise.
Well, from my engineering background, I figure that what it's doing is making the body operate more efficiently, because magnesium is an element. It has to come from the food, and consequently the body is then taking and processing that and providing more magnesium to the body. Yes.
What was the attitude among the clinical participants as the weeks unfolded and they actually started feeling better and, like yourself, actually trying to grasp to a glimmer of hope that had not existed when you started the study?
Well, they were all really pleased. I mean, especially we had one gentleman that was there. He was taking nitroglycerin tablets, an average of about 16 per day for the angina, I think it's called. And at the end of the study, he was only taking 1. So, and he's still on it. I've not had an opportunity to talk to him since, but, you know, the angina pains went down substantially. I could just go on, but the attitude of the people was great. I mean, they were all feeling good. The interesting thing is at the end of 90 days, which was the length of the study, most of them went off of it. They kept 10 of us on. I happened to be one of the 10 who was one of the worst cases, for an additional 90-day study with a reduced amount of the pro-arginine. And the other people who were on it, after several weeks, had to come back to the doctor because they weren't feeling very well, and they noticed that they believed it was because they needed something else, and the doctor told them, you really need to get back on your pro-arginine. So, but everybody felt good. It was great to go there and see the people being tested and feeling more positive about life. It was terrific.
Well, it's terrific to have you here. What advice would you have for others in your situation who may have physicians or caregivers that are telling them that really there's no hope or there's nothing they can do? I mean, that they aren't aware of the Nobel Prize research. They're not aware of things like this High Desert Institute. What would you say to, say, a corporate friend or somebody that you've known throughout the country who says, oh, I need to talk to my cardiologist, and he says that he doesn't think there's anything that can help me? What would be your advice to someone like that at this point in their life?
Well, actually that has happened many times as I've gone to tell a lot of people about it. There's many people who have come to me and asked me how I got well because they knew I was ready to die. In fact, I have several friends who never even came to see me anymore because they didn't want to see me get worse. One of my dear friends, John Snyder, is one who saw me from day one and continued to see me, but he, as much as I know that we like each other, he didn't want to come to see me anymore because it was just too hard for him to see me going down. So basically what I've told people is that, hey, this worked for me. I've read everything, I've researched it. They know me. I do an extensive research on everything that I do. And a lot of them trusted my judgment. And once they trusted my judgment to get on it, they went on it, they found out from themselves, and they were telling other people about it and coming back to me. I mean, it's just been great to hear everybody. In fact, I'm going on a cruise a couple of days from now with a gentleman who was 84 years old who took this supplement because he had given up. And I got a call from his wife, and I took some to him and asked him if he'd promised me to take it. And I says, if you get well, we'll go on a cruise. Well, I don't know if it's the going on the cruise that did it, because he could have gone on a cruise before with me, but he is feeling so much better now that we are going on a cruise. Our wives and myself and him and I are going. So there hasn't been anybody who hasn't taken it that hasn't felt well. The only advice I really have, to get back to your question, is I'd try it. I think that if you have nothing else, but if you're in bad shape, try it because you don't have anything to lose. If you're in good shape, try it, because I have a grandson who is training to be a Navy SEAL, and he saw what I was taking, and he said he wanted to take it. And I said, you don't need this stuff. You're as physically fit as you can be. And he says, Grandpa, I want to take it. He says, it made you well. He says, it may give me more energy. He took it, and after a week he called me and he said he's never had so much energy. He can run further, he can run faster, he can swim further, he can swim faster, and he can do more pull-ups and push-ups than he could before. And that's in 1 week. So he's got all his friends taking it as well. So
tell us a little bit, in a little more detail, about what your life was like. You mentioned that you could only walk a certain number of feet and that you had oxygen essentially 24 hours a day. You virtually were totally immobilized, almost chronically disabled, so to speak. How does that compare with your life now, 6 months later?
There is no comparison. To be specific, I've been monitoring my blood tests, and I guess it is the engineer in me. Since 1995, I've got the records. I've monitored them longer. But I was checking my tests each week and comparing it with all the records I had. And over the years, I had many different tests that were above normal or below normal. Well, what I noticed after the 90-day study, that everything was back in the normal range, which it hadn't been for a long time. My triglycerides were down, my cholesterol was down, everything was back into the normal range. Oxygen, I no longer use oxygen. It was about 3 months afterwards that I stopped using it. I didn't need it, and I had them come to take away the portable units because I used to have it wherever I went. They've not come to pick up the main unit yet. It's still there. As far as kidneys, my kidneys are something else, went all the way back to normal. I just had the test here Tuesday, and my kidneys are at 0.9 for the creatinine, and supposedly that's very good because I think around 0.7 is supposed to be like a teenager. So my kidneys went back to normal, and I was expected to be on dialysis as a minimum and a kidney transplant. So they've gone back to normal. Asthma, I have asthma. You wouldn't know that I have it. I have no shortness of breath. I can walk further. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't get any shortness of breath in walking. The patients all were very happy. The results truly have been astonishing. I can only say, based on speaking with the people who were there, they all had unbelievable results. Don't know what else I can add to that.
Well, that's an outstanding. We're so delighted. You know, one of the Como Cardio missions is to save 1 million lives. And we know that people who go to the effort to introduce this to something as distinguished as the High Desert Heart Institute, that's an extraordinary situation that we can now share the word with the world. As you think about the fact that 700 to 900,000 people die annually in the United States of heart disease, and people aren't aware of this message, this research, this product, what does that do to you? How do you feel about that?
I don't feel very good. I feel good in the sense that I'm spending a lot of time and a lot of effort in trying to make this known to everybody. I just wish it had been known here a year or so ago, because my brother died from congestive heart failure. My mother died from congestive heart failure. Many of my friends have died. I'm just trying to save them one life at a time, if you will, and I've been fortunate that to date I know of one life I have saved, and there are many others that I'm working on. They're working on as well. It just, I really want to spend a lot of time, and I intend to go around and speak to many people on the subject, because I want them to be aware that it's there. Because I'm not sure, actually I am sure, most doctors will not let them know it's available, okay? Because a lot of the people who have taken the information I've provided them to their doctors have basically said, you don't need to take that, you're okay, you know.
It makes me angry, because I lost my father, my uncle, my cousin, my grandfather to the same thing, and I believe that it saved my life. That's why I have the passion that I have to share this with the world. For a moment, if you would you just talk to the people out there who may be listening to this and trying to understand whether or not they should try this product? This would be to the people who should try this product, who are in a situation like yours or have a loved one that may be in that situation. Just give us your final piece of advice to those people as to why you think this is so important.
Well, short of the fact that it saved my life and it's helping other people, I got to tell you that give it your best shot, because this is one of those things that can help you from a preventive standpoint. Even if you're feeling good right now, after researching it and talking to the people who have spent years researching the product, it goes without saying that it works beautifully. Can it help everything? I can't say that it can help everything, because I don't know that it's helped everything. I can just say this, that it has helped me. It's helped many of my friends to date. There's probably 25 or 30 of them that have tried it, and all have seen great benefits. I can only tell you that the product, I've gone over to the company to see it being manufactured. The facility is greater and better than most operating rooms I've been in. It's cleaner. It's cleaner than most clean room facilities that build electronics. It's unbelievably clean. The product has a quality that is truly unbelievable as well. And all I can say is try it.